life and why he lost his life. We know that there were also 3 images that were produced by CMPD, most notably a handgun, a ankle holster, and what appears to be a small piece of a marijuana blunt, which is what they're calling it. I think it's important here to remember that this is an ongoing process, and there are still a lot of questions that need to be answered. And we are going to continue to look into the facts of this case moving forward. But one of the biggest questions is when you look at this dash cam footage, when you look at the time frame between Mr. Scott stepping out of his vehicle to the moment he unfortunately passes away on the pavement, is do those actions, do those precious seconds justify this shooting? That is the most important question that has to be answered. And we are going to continue to look into the facts. But I can tell you, again, what we see when we look at this dash cam video is Mr. Scott steps out of the vehicle. He doesn't appear to be acting aggressive towards any of the law enforcement officers on the scene. He doesn't appear to be making gestures or motions as though he's arguing with anybody. He doesn't lunge at the officers. Appears he has his hands by his side. Again, there is no definitive evidence in this video as to whether or not there is an object in his hand, and if there is, what that object is. That question still remains. But what we do know is that the moment Mr. Scott is shot, it appears as though he's not aggressively moving towards law enforcement. He's actually doing the opposite. He's passively stepping back. There's another key question that I think needs to be looked into, and of course we are going to look into it, and that is this. Given the statement that was released and CMPD's position that these officers saw some things go on, they left, they suited up, they came back, and they proceeded to move in on Mr. Scott, is this talk of body cameras. We need to know whether or not the policies and procedures of this department is for officers who are now, as they say, identifying themselves as police officers with this department. Are they required to wear body cameras? Because we know that one responding officer with this department who was in uniform was. And at the moment they put this vest on that appears may say police or indicate that they are law enforcement. Do they need to have their cameras on? If they do, and they don't have them on, that is a problem. And quite frankly, with this issue of body cameras, we have no perspective from the alleged shooter. What he saw, these are things that have to be looked at. So with that said, we'll pass on to...
Good evening. I'm sorry?
Could you identify yourself?
I'm Ray Dodge. I'm Rakia Scott's brother.
I'm Rachel Dodge. I'm Rakia's sister.
We are certainly delighted as a family that the videos were released. Our goal has, from the beginning, been to get the absolute unfiltered truth. And the only way to get that is for the police to release the videos that we were released today. Unfortunately, we are left with far more questions than we have answers. It does not make sense to us how it was possible that this incident resulted in the loss of life. It just does not make sense, and it is not clear in the videos that were released. Additionally, many of you, the media, of which I am a part, have requested information about Mr. Scott. What kind of person he is. Was he a good father? Was he a good husband? Those issues surrounding his character. Of course he was a wonderful person, and of course we loved him dearly, but that shouldn't be the issue. We shouldn't have to humanize him in order for him to be treated fairly, what we know and what you should know about him is that he was an American citizen who deserved better. That is our position, and it should be yours. My name is Ray, last name Dotch, D as in David, O-T-C-H. I am Rakia Scott's brother, Keith Scott's brother-in-law.
And, excuse me, my name is Charles Manette. I'm the local Charlotte person here, and you know, I love this city. I love our state. I respect our police department and understand the difficulty of the job that they have to do. But quite frankly, I'm shocked, less than 2 years after the conclusion of the Jonathan Ferrell case, that we're standing back before you again to talk about whether the shooting of another black man was justified. We shouldn't be here. We've got to learn. We've got to change our police approach. And one of the things that really disturbs me about what I see on the video is the failure of the police to use all of the resources that they had at their disposal to avoid killing Keith. You know, we're a state with a huge number of veterans, and many of those veterans are coming back with traumatic brain injuries. This isn't going to be the last time police face one of our citizens who suffered from a brain injury. His wife is there trying to tell them he's a man with a brain injury. Why didn't they use that resource? Why didn't they get his wife in and get her assistance to de-escalate this situation? We hear that that's something that's supposed to be being emphasized in police departments all over the country. De-escalate, don't escalate. But that did not happen here, and we have to ask ourselves why. Now, the standards that the Charlotte Police Department has adopted for the use of deadly force are something called aggravated active aggression. Before a firearm can be discharged by an officer and be in compliance with their policy, the subject that they are trying or about to shoot has to be engaged in aggravated active aggression, which they define as the imminent danger of serious bodily injury or death to an officer or another innocent bystander. Their policy talks about the discharge of a weapon, not the presence of a weapon. So are there training problems here? From what we see, that policy is not being followed. So we hope that this is the last time that media has to gather in Charlotte and talk about whether the shooting of one of our citizens is justified. We hope the city and the police will learn from this encounter.
At this time, we'll entertain a few questions.
First question to the relatives.
Well, at this time, the family is not going to be taking any questions. We'll take the
Could
questions.
you just tell us the state of Rakia Scott and her children, and what, if any, message they have to the city of Charlotte as a provider of this hope?
Well, they're doing as you would probably expect them to be doing. They're still in a time of mourning. Of course, funeral preparations are underway. And again, you know, it's hard to flip through the television without seeing talk of what happened to Mr. Scott and individuals like him. But I can tell you that the family is strong. They're sticking together. They're supporting one another. Their message is, as it has been from the beginning, you know, it's okay to express your voice. It's okay to let your frustrations with the system and with the justices and injustices of society, but you have to do that in the appropriate way. They still maintain they do not want violence. They do not want innocent individuals being injured or killed. Absolutely not. There is nothing in any video that I have seen, whether it be Miss Scott's, whether it be the dash cam or the body cam. You can't clearly identify what, if anything, is in his hand. And that has not changed.
Are you debating which officer shot him? Are you debating that as a family and a child?
We are still looking into all of the facts, of course, with regards to who pulled the trigger. We don't have access to any of the testing that may or may not have yet been done on the firearms. We are looking into all facets of this because, as we said from the beginning, we're not here to hurl allegations. We're here to find out what happened and why it happened, and more importantly, we're here to make sure the best we can that this doesn't have to happen again in the future.
I have a question about the police. The police are saying that part of the reason why this happened is because he had marijuana and a gun. I'm not really, you can say whether or not he had marijuana and a gun, but I'm more interested in the idea that even if he had marijuana and a gun, that this ended up fatally. There are people I've been talking to who say even if that was the case, you take them at their word that this shouldn't have ended fatally. What's your statement here?
How does the combination of marijuana and a gun constitute aggravated active aggression that put the lives of these officers in danger?
Was that his gun?
This is our first time seeing an actual photograph of not just that gun, but the holster and everything else. We are investigating and looking into the facts, and we hope to continue to dig, and we will find out the truth at the end of the day.
How would anyone still believe that he's unarmed? Doesn't lead to a criminal charges. What will happen?
Come again?
If the FBI investigation does not lead to criminal charges against the officer, what will happen?
Well, we have both a civil justice system and a criminal justice system. And that's the place for this ultimately to be resolved. In our justice system, whether it's criminal or civil. And, you know, at this point, we just don't know enough of the facts to know whether this officer should be charged, whether it's appropriate to, whether he negligently discharged his weapon. We're trying to do an appropriate investigation, to keep an open mind, and that's what we urge everyone to do.
You say you're still investigating whether this was his gun. However, now it presented DNA evidence that was on that gun. How do you explain his DNA ending up on that weapon found?
Well, I can't answer that question. Again, this is our very first opportunity to see what else is out there, which is what we have been asking for from the beginning. But I think, and we have to go back to the most important question here, and that lies from the moments leading up to him stepping out of the vehicle to him dying on the pavement. And I can tell you that when I look at the dash cam footage, I don't see anything there, in my opinion, that would lead to him losing his life.
Does the family still believe that he was unarmed?
Yes, those who looked at it, i.e. Miss Scott, as she looks, she doesn't see him having a gun. You know, none of these things change. And one thing that everyone has to understand, and we've said this before, is every witness to this has different vantage points. And we are attempting to grab here and grab there and piece together a picture, okay? When one piece of information comes out, that doesn't change someone else's position because that's their position based on what they know. And that's when I say we don't speak on speculation. We're here to find facts. We're not hurling allegations. We want to know, again, what happened and exactly why it happened.
One way or another, there's going to be reaction to this, perhaps tonight. What's your message to those who may be planning another round of protests this weekend?
Just what we've said over and over and over again, and we continue to say. We appreciate the support of the community. We want the support of the community. The community should express their opinions, but they should do it lawfully and peacefully.
Thank you all. No more questions for right now, because just as this is our first time seeing it, there's a lot of other family, and for some of them, this is their first time seeing it, so we have to make sure that they are taken care of, because at the end of the day, this is about them. So thank you all so much.
But that is only a gun that police asked you to drop on a gospel acted.